Welcome to The Gay Amazing Race, a series about the reality competition show, The Amazing Race, from an LGBTQ point of view. But friends, you know The Amazing Race is not in season currently, but what is part of the culture. It's the Ultimatum Queer Love Season 2, and Nicole and I couldn't help but bring in a panel of special guests to really do bonus episodes on TGR with a kind of mega crossover with Nicole's pod, Sagittarian Matters, to just get into the nitty, the gritty, the butterflies and cockroaches of it all, the ultimatum. Nicole, do you want to introduce our guests?
Well, I sure do, Karen. We have with us two professors and experts in sexuality that are here to consult on this very special show. We've been in a group chat since the last season of Queer Ultimatum, or around the last season, and it is Poulomi, Saha, and Greta Fleur. Welcome.
Glad to be here.
I'm glad to be here and honored to be considered an expert in sexuality with you.
I was going to say, I'm not sure. Is Poulomi an expert in sexuality other than practically?
Probably just
Okay, I would have been more offended if you had said the opposite.
Yeah.
A theoretical expert in sexuality.
No, obviously Poulomi is just expertly sexual, perhaps, but we don't know.
Oh.
Poulomi does work on cults,
We
and
don't know.
among the different things that obviously we're going to talk about some element of the cultish nature of the whole ultimatum phenomenon. Whatever.
Well, I'm currently being pursued by the Church of Scientology for defamation, so maybe we could spin that in here and give them something else to chew on.
Hey, congratulations on that.
I also want to remind everyone who's been a day one listener of TGR that Poulomi and Greta were guests before new seasons of The Amazing Race resumed, and they were one of our fantasy league teams, which is apropos because now we're all basically in a queer ultimatum fantasy league, which we'll discuss at various points, maybe not thoroughly in this episode, but let's just get into it right away because I feel like we need to really just kind of jump into the personalities, who everybody is. Nicole, it seems like you wanted to interject here for some reason.
I need us to all state our bias. Can everyone describe their own hairstyle before we go into this? Because we are going to be doing some hairstyle reads. So
Correct.
I'm femme, I guess. And I have bangs and long hair, and it's long all the way underneath. All the hair is long.
Universally long.
Universally long. There's no undercut here. Can you all declare your majors now?
Poulomi, do you want to go next?
I think I have a modern mullet that I'm so glad to see already aging out into an old lesbian mullet.
So you
good, sorry.
Good. I was going to say, I love that. Like it's like is it your Benjamin Button mullet, but it's like actually aging in the proper direction.
I'm going to have this mullet until it is age appropriate again, which is right now. I mean, I've got the curls. I've got the kind of rangy mullet voice these days. I'm going to be a mullet for the rest of my life, God willing.
And the highlights too. Highlighted mullet is, I think, an important thing to underscore. Greta, you wanted to interject?
So no, I wasn't trying to interject. I'm sorry. I just kept thinking it was my turn to talk. It's almost Leo season. I have what I would call like some sort of verse mullet. Like it's both a mullet that was kind of like appropriate in a kind of like business setting in the 80s, but then also is inappropriate in a kind of bar setting in the 80s because it's a little long in the back, you know?
Yeah,
Karen?
I mean, I think, I just wanted to comment that Greta's actually, of the friends I have, perhaps the most on trend when it comes to haircuts and hairstyle.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I think that Greta is very exploratory. And, like if it's going to be a bowl, it's going to be a bowl. If it's going to be, like a mullet, like with high and tight or whatever, it's going to be that. But there is a consistency to the bangs, a little bit of fringe.
Yeah. I've got a 5 head, so I have to have some hair in the front, and I also am very precious about my hair. Again, consult further, Leo. Yeah.
Can we see real quick the 5 head?
Yeah. Look, see, kind of like a solid.
Oh.
I tried for a second to have
It's
like a really blunt.
I thought there was a 3 head because it's a short forehead.
No. Greta and I both have 5 heads. See,
I think we have 5 heads. We've got like a larger forehead, I would say.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
I feel like there's some
we might both have forehead dysmorphia, or I just have a different opinion.
forehead dysmorphia.
Yeah, this group is very forehead dysmorphic.
Mhm.
I don't know how I would like. Look, I basically had this haircut for a while. I used to have a part more pronounced. It's like kind of tight on the sides, a little bit of length, maybe a slight bit of texture on top, but it's fairly straightforward, like the lesbian Don Draper of haircuts.
Yeah,
Like it doesn't
totally,
really
totally.
like move very much through the eras, except occasionally, it's a little tighter on the sides. I used to have more of a part that was pronounced, but that became appropriated by right-wing nationalist fascists
It's true. It's
in a
true.
way that just made it
Um,
not cute anymore, and not dapper. So I just try to um, have an age appropriate, if not entirely out of style and not too bulky, short lesbian haircut. In other words, I have no top knot, I have no man bun, I have no undercut. So, as I said, it's sort of like if you watch Mad Men, Don Draper essentially has the same cut with varying sideburn lengths throughout the entire run. And I kind of imagine that that's what my hair does.
Before we talk about the haircuts of the cast, can one of you run down the plot of the show for us? Like the overarching thing that we're talking about before we get into like ultimatums and givers, like what does it mean?
Greta.
I'm ready to dive in on this one. So basically, the show is organized around a series of couples. I think there's 6 couples. Is that right? And one half of each couple wants to get married and wants to get married now, and the other half of the couple is unsure. So the sort of setup for the show is that one half of the couple gives the other an ultimatum. So that's where the title comes from.
Ultimatum
And
givers, right?
yeah, that's the ultimatum. So one half of the couple, so the ultimatum givers give the ultimatums to their partners, the ultimatum receivers, and they say like, look, like we gotta get married or else. So they go on the show, and then this is where it gets wild. They split up the couples, so the couples become exes on the first day, and then they all sort of date around with each other, and then they're asked to make a decision during an episode that's called The Choice at this dinner, where everyone's constantly drinking from these weird silver goblets that look like they're out of Game of Thrones. But people have to decide on a new trial wife or trial spouse for the week, or not for the week, for 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
So and they live together. They're given like an apartment together. They share a bed. They're set up on all these kind of like forced dates. And at the end of 3 weeks, they go back and spend more time with their original partners, and then they have to make a decision about whether they're going to go home alone, go home with the person that they came with, the ultimatum giver or receiver, or go home with the person they just spent 3 weeks with. Is that a good assessment?
Excellent summary, Greta. Also, I wanted to add just a footnote about the opaque goblets. That those are a staple of reality dating
Mhm,
shows at this point, and that's because of continuity editing
mhm.
issues, right? So that in this sense, if a conversation happens later, but for plot reasons, they want to insert it earlier in the same scene, you won't be able to tell based on the varying drink, the fullness of drinks. So that's why the Game of Thrones cups are prevalent in the Ultimatum and elsewhere. So that's the premise. Um, and the parlance is that people call the people who they came with their exes, which is very lesbianic. I mean, I guess the straight people use these terms too, but for me, it feels endemically lesbian to instantly have an ex that's like in your milieu and that other people are dating.
Yeah, exactly. In front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let's dive in. Should we dive in now to the cast and the ultimatum
Yes.
All right.
givers and receivers?
Let's start with AJ and Brittany.
So
Together for 5 years.
Wow, that's one of the longer standing couples.
Poulomi, do you want to give us a quick description of, or your impression of Brittany and AJ?
So I have to say, I was surprised that they'd been together for 5 years because they, like all of the cast, skew younger. They are solid mid Saturn return, which is
Mhm.
appropriate for the genre of the show. Um, Brittany, by all accounts, has her stuff together. She
Yes.
is, I think we saw somewhere the astrology, but I'm going to guess Capricorn because,
Virgo.
Virgo. Okay.
Very clear,
She
yeah.
is checking off boxes. She's self-made. AJ is clearly a kept them. It is
Yeah.
entirely.
AJ's a she, her, just to be respectful of pronouns. But yeah, yeah.
I'm so sorry. I was gonna say man, so I've been skewing. I've been trying to gender appropriate myself. And the terms of their conflict seem to be that Brittany's got her stuff together, and AJ claims that she can't be with a goddess like Brittany until she has her stuff together. It seems like AJ maybe never wants to have her stuff together, though. There is some kind of perpetual adolescence certainly happening. And for all of that, I'm so devoted to you. AJ hit the ground running so fast.
Yes.
AJ did one of those police rollouts out of a moving vehicle. He was just like, I want to knock through everybody. And AJ was the first point of real drama because she got into it and was having deep U-Haul conversations with three
Genuine
people.
connections.
Yes, genuine connections, talking intimacy and romance with three people all at once. And it did not go so well for AJ when it came to the choice because of it.
Let me just say, and I think I texted this to Greta on the side, is at some point it felt like AJ was the living incarnation of that song Mambo Number 5. A little bit of Erica in my life. You know, like, it's like AJ was like bopping around Mambo Number 5ing her way through the entire cast, through most of the femmes of the cast.
Who does she refer to herself as? DMX?
She refers to a DMX song. Yeah. But can I add one detail about AJ, which is that I did, when I watched several episodes, I think we watched the first 4 episodes on Wednesday night when it came out, and I watched it with my friend Caleb, who's a Libra, and Caleb also, as AJ is, and Caleb really defended AJ and was like, no, it's not that like AJ is being manipulative. AJ is just a Libra and like could fall in love with anyone. And I do actually think now, where I'm on episode 5, or I just finished episode 5, I kind of have come around to this story. I think that AJ is just like AJ just like popped back out of the closet of their like coupleness, like into their singleness, and was just like ready to jam. I'm kind of here for AJ.
AJ's a relationship chameleon for sure. You could see it even on like each individual date. Whoever the other person was, AJ was like, what can I be to reflect back at you what you want?
Dangerous.
It's working. It was working for some people for a minute.
I love that term, relationship chameleon. Also, that makes me think of a song that I've heard recently that I haven't heard in a while, but that is also apropos to AJ, which is Justin Timberlake's Mirror. Remember
Oh,
that?
yeah.
I know someone who referred to herself as relationship tofu because she'll take
wow.
on whatever. I mean, that's maybe another lesbian version of this terminology.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so let's shall we move on to the next
Marie and Mel, age 27. They've been together for 4 years.
do you want to talk about them, Nicole?
Well, Marie, okay, they own a food truck together that was like
This
Marie.
is very important.
Okay, Marie's like the femme and Mel is an LHB. Mel doesn't have an undercut, but Mel has like a migrating side part.
Yes.
Getting lower and lower throughout the show.
Absolutely.
For those of you who don't know what LHB means,
Long-haired booch.
That's a long-haired booch.
So it's someone who's masculine, but they have Rapunzel hair. And you can just tell they're masked just by a lot of other things. Not because they have a Don Draper hairdo.
No.
So Marie is femme and owns the food truck. That's kind of her doing. She's like the workahol. And then Mel is along for the ride. Mel wants no marriage or kids, had 4 moms as a kid. And I was like, ruh-oh.
Yeah.
Like when you meet a lesbian who has mom issues, you're like, buckle in, sister, because this is going to be a wild ride. Mel is like second in Lothario command to AJ. Like AJ's like, going around, putting her hand on everyone's leg, making everyone fall in love. Oh, AJ has something called STD, sexual attention disorder, which is where everyone who talks to you thinks that you're trying to get it. And it's just because that's your vibe and you have no energetic boundaries. Marie almost has that, but Marie's like not quite as smooth. But Marie is kind of like leching around. Mel, sorry. Marie's
I think Bridget has that too, actually, but we'll keep not Bridget. Yeah.
We'll get to that romantic Romeo, that feminine Romeo. Anyway, so Mel is also kind of like sliming around all the gals.
Greta, do you want to chime in a little bit about Mel in the early phases that were introduced to her.
This might need to be cut, but Mel reminds me. Mel fucking. I don't use the word triggered lightly. I feel like I use it once a year in very precise scenarios. But Mel triggers the shit out of me because she reminds me of one of Poulomi's ex-girlfriends who I hate, and that's the end of that story.
I was going to throw myself on our relationship sword, Greta, and maybe Greta was triggered because my sexuality, just in full confession, is hair. I love a ponytail so much, and Greta's hatred of one of my exes has always been about wanting to cut off this person's ponytail.
Well, the hatred's not about cutting off the ponytail. The manifestation of the hatred and the revenge is about cutting off the ponytail. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna have to cut this. Yeah. Like the ponytail.
Please keep this in, please.
Just keep it in. Who cares? What I wanted to say about Mel is that, initially, when we are first introduced to Mel, and Mel sidles up to Brittany, who is AJ's partner, who is gorgeous,
beautiful,
put together, femme,
not crazy. It doesn't seem
super chill. Mel sidles up next to her first, or that's what we see in the edit. And I'm like, all right, Mel, shoot your shot. I like that. Be direct, straightforward. Don't be a hemming and hawing awkward butch, which many butches are. I may have been one of those in the past, but never more. But that's sort of the vibe that I was getting. Anyway, Mel is as Nicole says, or you kind of characterize Mel as a lieutenant to AJ. I think that we'll find out that she's at least a lieutenant colonel, if not the secret general of the whole situation. Okay, who else have we got here?
Haley and Pilar. Oh, Poulomi, you got something to say.
I say one thing about, we're talking about people's hair, but I also think people's flirting body language is so interesting. Mel loves a finger mustache as flirting. She likes her finger over her into someone, and I find it hilarious. I'm like, yes, that's right. Cover the mouth, really demure. It's very, very hot.
She also enjoys a sultry lean.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
there's a sultry lean.
A finger to the finger over the lip.
Finger mustache sultry lean combo.
Yeah.
I just was imagining myself in all these montages of AJ getting it with people and Mel. I just imagined them montaging to me going, just grimacing, frowning, doing a full dewlap like Kermit the Frog, recoiling, just arms crossed across my chest, being like, I don't know.
And backing into the bush.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Homer Simpson. Absolutely.
That being said, I know myself, and I would have Homer Simpson the other way. So I'm just going to be very honest.
Into Mel's arms, directly into Mel's arms. That's how I felt about Mildred last season. I was like, I'm not proud of this, but I would have definitely gone there. Throw the pet gate at me.
Maybe this changes who I'm choosing as your trial wife. Thank you for saying so.
Oh. Okay.
Fascinating. Nicole's going to choose trial wife for us. That's something. Okay.
I'm choosing everyone's trial wife. Please choose mine. It's very sad, but I know who you're choosing. Okay.
So we have Haley and Pilar.
Oh my
Greta,
God.
you want to talk to us about Haley and Pilar?
Wait, who?
Haley and Pilar.
Oh, am I talking about it?
Yeah.
No, I've invited you. You don't have to, but I've invited you.
Oh, no, I want to. Okay, so I actually think, so they've been together for 10 years. They're 28 years old. They are children, and they've been together. They have their longest relationship, which is also their first relationship, is longer than any relationship I have ever had at the age of 43. However, okay, so I think that they are profoundly mismatched. This is one thing to say. Pilar is basically just horny, mature, and ready to go. She's grown and sexy. She wants, she was the ultimatum receiver. So I think that Haley wanted to lock Pilar down. Haley's a Taurus. Wait, what's Pilar here? Does anyone remember what Pilar is?
Let me take a quick look. I have a.
Yeah, thanks, KT.
I'm guessing Virgo.
Haley is a Taurus, and Pilar is yet another Libra.
She's a Libra. There it is. But I love Pilar. Pilar is one of my favorite characters. And she just, Karen and I were texting about this. And we were like, Pilar just wants to get railed. Like she's just like she's had sex with one person, and she's just like excited that she's down to clown.
Yes.
And we'll get there. But I would say that her
Or
choice was
to rail or to be railed. I mean, she just
rail or
wants
be
to rail.
railed. She's a Libra, you know,
Yeah.
like the scales. And then Haley is a Taurus who, like, I do think we'll get to that in a minute, but ends up with one of the better matches, trial wife matches in the show, because like basically she's like into Taurus things. Like she brought her meat thermometer and her food scale with her. She loves lying in bed. Her trial wife loves lying in bed with them. They like to like have picnics and move slowly, you know, and she just wants to like lock it in. And she's just like a tall Taurus. I just feel like they got together when they're 18 and they should have probably broken up like, I don't know, a year and a half in, and 10 years in, they're still together. Oh, and Pilar, just as a note, Pilar, her family, she came out to her family 8 years into her relationship with Haley. And as I understand it, her mother hasn't spoken to her since.
Yeah. And I also just wanted to add that I pegged Pilar as Filipino, or at least part Filipino, the minute like I saw her in the previews crying in a particular way. And I just sort of, and also talking about her family. And so it's interesting because I think she's like Pino Latina. So she's, I think maybe part Nicaraguan, is that it? And part Latina. I'm not exactly remembering the intro episode, but I do think that factors a little bit into the kind of stability you're supposed to stay with somebody forever, like from the beginning situation or scenario. Divorce is still illegal, or maybe it's not illegal anymore, but it was through like my young adulthood in the Philippines, right? It's a very Catholic country. That said, you know, Pilar also presents as someone who has many enthusiasms and interests. Like when she's vibing initially with AJ on their dates, Pilar talks about, I made music and I make art and I do all these different things, right?
She's really into glass blowing. She's mentioned that.
I love talking about glass blowing. She mentions it so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
We guys, they're both femme. Nobody said this, but they're both women.
Yeah, they're the only full femme on femme couple. Is that right?
Long hair to long hair, the only long to long.
Well, no, there's another long to long, but this is the only femme for femme long to long.
And Margarita.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hair. This season is
a lot of
hair.
There's no one that seems to understand that they could cut their hair if they wanted. Like it just.
You could do that service, Greta. You could go around and just cut hair.
I'm like, do you have a dysmorphic relationship to the shortness of your hair? Let me tell you how to actualize that.
Everyone has a bowl cut by the end, and you're like, it's a step. It's a step in the right direction.
I was like, we've started. Yeah.
All right, let's get to Kyle and Bridget. Oh, sorry, Karen.
Oh, God, yeah.
Can I also just step back for a moment and just say, because we're mentioning long hair, and we talked about Mel and Marie, and I think it's telling that we spent all of our time talking about Mel, but very little time talking about Marie, who is a Virgo and who is a partner in this food truck enterprise. But she presents not as a Virgo to me. Anyway, that's a long hair relationship. We'll get more into it when we're summarizing what happens. I just wanted to acknowledge that Mel had a partner, or came in with a partner, who we very clearly already began to not talk about.
Marie wasn't really giving much for a while. She's a tough nut, that Virgo.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Kyle and Bridget, a real show-stopping couple. Karen, what do you got to say?
Yes. Well, first of all, a caveat that I've actually met Bridget in Los Angeles here. Bridget
How?
Served wine at the former Tilda, which was next door to Bacchetti, the wine bar that was run by the folks who run Bacchetti, which is one of my favorite places in Echo Park, one of my neighborhood joints. And Bridget was really wonderful and nice, and I had no idea she participated. She is really wonderful and nice, and I had no idea she participated in the Ultimatum until later. And I was like, oh shit, that's Bridget from Bacchetti. But that said, Kyle and Bridget, if we want to begin with the hair introduction, Kyle is I want to say has, I guess a sort of like early aughts boy band buzz cut. Insofar as it's a platinum.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes.
You know, it's sort of like, it's like the seventh member of the Backstreet Boys. So Kyle, is is like sort of they're mask presenting. They both actually, Bridget and Kyle both use she, they pronouns.
Mhm.
So the pronoun usage, I think, also speaks to the aesthetic that they both bring. Uh, yeah. Actually, there's a hilarious video shared to a group chat of mine today of Bridget talking about uh, her hair on the show and saying that she was disappointed in the way her hair looked throughout the entire series
Oh.
because of the humidity in Florida that tightened her
Oh.
curls even tighter than she
I thought
wanted
she
them
looked
to.
great. I thought she looked really. I think her hair is awesome. As someone who like cares about hair, I think her hair is great.
Yeah.
Or their hair, excuse me.
Yeah, well, she, they. So I
Should
think that
I?
either one works in this instance. And so Bridget has, I guess, a curly mullet. One could say she
Really?
is like in the mullet family. And Bridget is a creative. She describes herself as somebody, who
Poulomi's
does.
face.
Sorry.
What's going
Everything
on?
about it is just so LA. The mullet is LA. I'm a creative is just I here in Northern California. I'm reflecting back at you.
Yes, I was about you are my mirror. Oh, anyway, so it is. I did want to say they're very LA couple.
Mhm.
They're kind of like, um, you know, in that sort of she they way. Um, yes, Kyle wears many like kind of open short sleeve button downs with
Yes.
kind of loose t-shirts underneath. So Kyle is the ultimatum giver and Bridget is the receiver. Kyle seems strangely eager to get married. And Bridget seems profoundly ambivalent about it. And I think a lot of it has to do with and I don't want to put words into Bridget's mouth, but
Mhm.
he's essentially like Kyle is boring.
I,
You
I
know,
mean, it's
Kyle is not spontaneous. Kyle is kind of routinized and could zhuzh things up a little bit, make things more exciting, just in as a kind of lived experience of coupledom. I don't know if that's a fair assessment, but what do you all think?
Also see two like in a lot of these couples, but especially in Kyle and Bridget, different forms of what marriage is supposed to be and when you have it. Bridget I think she's in what I would call an extended queer adolescence. In addition to being a creative who has a bunch of jobs, I think she also tells us that she was at one time a Red Bull girl.
that's right. That's right. She does say that. That's right. That's right.
Cobbling together work so that she has time for her art. She also mentions that she euphemizes it, but my guess is like she lives in some shared house where, it's a little more like scrappy. And my sense is that Kyle um, looks at their 401k every day to make sure that like it's ticking in the right direction. Like Kyle seems kind of steady and stable, and my guess is that they do not live together, which is part of what makes this whole ultimatum so strange. But I think Kyle is an adult, and Bridget is really trying to forestall joining her in adulthood.
That's a great
Oh,
summary.
that's so interesting. I have a little bit of a different read if I could just throw it in there.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I think of Kyle as a lot more nervous, like kind of anxious.
Anxious
Um
attachment style for sure.
For sure, but also just in general anxious. That's the vibe on the show, and also like, but definitely anxious attachment, and really like wants to like lock this thing down and have a little bit more of a traditional view of like what marriage is for. Like we have that moment where we get to hear from Kyle's parents, and we know that Kyle's mom gave Kyle's dad an ultimatum before the show even existed, but then also. Like Bridget says that thing, like, I'm not really sure, like, what does marriage add? Like, to my mind, like, that's a really classic, almost I mean, they're both so young, but like, I think of it as almost generationally different relationship to marriage among queer people. So that feels kind of like, I don't know, in there too.
Can I say which one of you brought up attachment styles first?
Did.
And KT.
You guys, we should have been diagnosing everyone this whole time. I would say, with the exception of Brittany, who Brittany seems, before she got in this experiment and thrown into anxiety, she seemed to be securely attached, but every other couple seems anxious and avoidant, bound together at the precipice of the altar. And that's what this entire show is built on. And that's what we're seeing play out in all these relationships. Speaking of, I'm saving my favorite anxious for the end. So before we get there, let's talk about Marita and Ashley, also known as Margarita.
Yeah, definitely known as Margarita. Yeah.
Poulomi, what do you have to say?
So I have to admit that when I was looking for the first clear walking red flag, it was Marita. She announced herself so messy in a way that I now want to celebrate her, because I think she has had a full redemption arc for me in just
100%. Totally.
episodes. But she comes in hot. Also, like
Yeah.
Gateway, the roll out of the moving car, trying to knock as many things over as possible. And she lands on AJ. So she is the ultimatum receiver. She seems to be very interested in one thing and one thing only, because she says
Yes.
all the time, romance.
She wants romance.
I'm not sure what romance means to her. Yes, candles, maybe roses.
Yeah.
I think candle next to roses is extra romance, and someone saying that they feel romantic is also very romantic. So these are the parameters of romance, and that is what Marita is after. Ashley, I actually tried to count how many minutes she speaks in the first 4 episodes, and I think it's like 1.5.
Yeah, it's really very little.
Not taking up any space at all in the show. And my guess is that is a reflection of their relationship. And she does have a kind of traumatic backstory about her lack of apparent romance that she shares. But it's a little unclear to me what Ashley wants. I think this may be one of these like anxious attachment, avoidant attachment things happening. I think Ashley wants to be held, probably not by Marita because of Marita's love of candles, but I think she wants to be held really tenderly. But her interiority is entirely non-existent, at least so far in the show. I cannot understand one thing they have in common, which makes me want to congratulate them because there's something beautifully opaque happening there. But they are here, I think they're on 2 different shows. I think Marita is on a real dating show and Ashley is on, I don't know, QVC or something. I'm not sure what show that is, but it's just, I think, a sign of the real gulf between them even before they have dating place. I'm not sure that they actually know each other's last names.
Ashley's on couples therapy and Marita is on Love Island.
Yes.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's actually true. Wait, can I add one thing about Ashley and Marita, which is slash Margarita, which is also like class wise, like they have like as a couple, I feel like they are the couple that kind of like to my mind, like Ashley's accent in particular, like I'm really curious about where she's from. It feels like Ohio, like Western Maryland, like maybe Western Pennsylvania, and like they just have like it just feels like they have a little bit of a different relationship to queer cosmopolitanism than the other people on the show, and I think that's like a useful thing to maybe having the ether here.
Also, let's not forget that Marita apparently had a brief moment as a pop star as a child.
As a child. Yeah, as a child.
So I think there's also maybe an element of trying to restart a pop.
Oh yeah,
happening.
absolutely.
Hustle.
We all do.
I'll say that. So it's interesting to me that Ashley is is another Virgo.
Yeah, that tracks for me.
The
Kind of. You don't
Virgo
think so?
reps this season aren't really hitting for me as a as I think it's like someone who appreciated the kind of spectacularness of, say, Mal's Virgo-ness from last season.
Yes.
The Virgo on display this season feels so September Virgo to me. But also Marita is a Pisces, and having once been coupled with a Pisces, I just know that is not a thing that it works very well. Actually,
Wait, did you say Virgo and Pisces together? That's like, I mean, well, I guess you're right insofar as that is my parents, and my parents got divorced and hated each other.
Yeah.
But it is but there's literally there's actually what's that like 70s song that has a line about Virgo Pisces, because they're 180. Aren't you guys 180 differences? Like you're supposed to work with a Pisces.
Or you're either most attracted or most repelled from the person directly across from you. Is that what you're talking about?
That's what I'm trying about. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I did once. I mean, I was with a Pisces for a number of years and then also ended that relationship by simultaneously dating another Pisces at the same time.
Oh boy.
Which was
Yeah.
just like this was just like my crucible.
We're declaring our biases.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't roll out of a moving car, Karen.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But that
yeah.
was sort of the end of that whole situation. And I think that what became clear actually, because I've had a few really fantastic Pisces friends, and the Pisces I dated, like we were wonderful friends. And it may be that the Ashley Marita Virgo Pisces combo is more about a certain kind of comfort in a certain kind of intimacy that's not going to be an enduring love story in any way.
Mhm.
I'll say.
You guys, Poulomi, to speak to your point about romance, I need to say a couple of things. One, Marita said that she penned a handwritten 98-page
98 pages.
98
pages.
Did she call an AJ a 98-page book or love letter that was hand illustrated for her partner? And then like the hairs went up on the back of my neck. I got chills. I was like, oh no. And then AJ's like, that's a novel. And to myself, I said, kind of more of a novella. But also to speak to the pop star stuff, Rita was like, this maybe happens later, but she was talking to AJ about her fallen star of pop starness and how she has a sad tattoo about it. And AJ's like, let's get you back on that stage. Hand me a mic. I'll beatbox in the back.
Yeah.
And then it's we can talk about it later, but I just needed to say that about those two. Can we get to the other show-stopping couple and our final couple today at ages 25 and 27, Dana and Megan?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
DAYNAMAGAN.
Yeah. Spell it.
Yeah, I don't know even where to begin. Greta, do you want to
Greta.
get started with Dana and Megan?
I think we'll start with Megan, and someone can do Dana. Megan is, I think the first thing that we learned about Megan is that she comes from like a large Lebanese family where people are not happy with her homosexuality, and there's a lot of like hemming and hawing about like in her relationship with Dana, and like the sort of explanation we get about why she doesn't want to commit because she's the ultimatum receiver and Dana's the ultimatum giver is because of her family. But then we also remember that she went on a nationally broadcast TV like show about her homosexuality. So, I mean, I get wanting to create external conditions that force you to do things. I do that to myself all the time, but that's a pretty exceptional one. Megan is also a personal trainer. Like in my mind, I kind of picture Megan as kind of like a really big, like Saint Bernard, like not always like just kind of wanting to do the things that a Saint Bernard does, but not wanting to do that much else. Taurus, so that's a really important thing about Megan. Very like comfortable in her comfort zone and not comfortable outside of her comfort zone. But she's always like, yeah, like, you know what I mean? She's just like, yeah.
Can you talk about her hair? Can you speak to her hair?
Oh, yes. She also likes the toxic masculinity top knot that we see a lot in the show. But if you look at the back, there's a very sculpted undercut. I feel like it's like it mimics like maybe like one of the ancient pyramids or something. You know, it's got a beautiful, very, very architecturally clear construction in the back.
Yeah, that undercut was paid for.
It was describe the hair.
That's where she went.
You know what's funny is in my head as I was doing that, I almost went like Aztec, and then I was like, no, it's going to be Egypt. Yeah,
the right region. That's fair. Don't forget, also there are. She has the sideburn undercut. There's some kind of.
Oh yeah, she does have a sideburn undercut. Yeah, it's like a around the head undercut. But there again, like not all undercuts have that triangle. Like it is like a very specific undercut.
She has almost like a wedge.
Triangle.
Yeah.
Poulomi, can you discuss Dana?
I can. So Dana, I'm sorry, not Mel's partner. Dana is
Megan.
Originally Megan's partner, and is a Gemini. So clearly a Gemini.
Mm-hmm.
Like a spinning whirl of a Gemini. And her complaint about Megan is that Megan isn't out to her family because of like kind of passivity. And I think that tracks. I think Dana is very, very sharp and sees that Megan needs an external condition to apparently force her out of the closet. It's unclear to me what else she sees in Megan. I will say this like with the asterisk that I have grown so unbearably fond of Megan that it's probably
I love Megan. Yeah.
I want to put them in my pocket and carry them around and, you know, like be their emotional support animal because they need a lot of emotional support, clearly. But Dana is this kind of hot, voluptuous, like out there to have a good time girl, and Megan wants to cry a lot. And I think Dana feels a little bit like the crying is cramping her style. I don't get the clearest vision of what marriage means to Dana other than forcing Megan into some kind of more public either confrontation or something with her family. It's not clear what else it means in terms of their relationship. So I do think that this is less about marriage and more about a kind of come out of the closet in a way that is recognizable to me. Also, Megan cried like the first or the second episode. Megan kind of breaks the protocol and goes to visit Dana to cry about wanting to leave the show. And Dana is like, "You're committed to me, so you have to do this," which I find as a fascinating description of what's happening. That the sign of Megan's commitment to Dana is to break up with Dana to date other people. But there you have it. Dana is there because I think she wants more than Megan can currently give her while weeping copiously.
There's a little bit of a mother boy dynamic /
100%. Dana is a brutal femtop. Like, let's also name that. Like, Dana's like brutal femtop. Yeah. Yeah.
Can we talk about the chastity nails?
Yes.
This is incredible. This made me, I was like, Megan, I want to give Megan like a big check for this. The best move on Queer Ultimatum. She talked Dana into getting a chastity manicure. Dana's a total femtop, and she talked Dana into getting these square acrylics before the show. It's so funny. I'm on a nail watch.
Yeah, you're not doing anything with those. You're not doing anything with those.
Nothing.
I think Dana will not be stopped. Let's be really clear.
Dana's gonna figure it out. Dana ripped those off with her teeth. She was just like,
Dana's putting the cotton balls in the glove, like I read about in a zine.
I was just about to talk about those cotton balls in the gloves.
Wait, pause and explain cotton balls glove.
Is this apocryphal? Does anyone ever do this? Did anyone ever do this?
No, this is legend. This is lore. Like, so basically in the 90s, people put it as in, they're like, hey, femmes with long nails, if you want to penetrate somebody, just get a rubber glove, put cotton balls in the end of each finger, and then put your claws in it. And then you can get it. You could get it. You could put your fingers inside of somebody without scraping them up.
I'm not confident that would work. I'm not confident.
Listen, I have used a dental dam. I have never even heard of a person using the glove with the cotton balls.
I mean, I've used the glove, not a dental dam, but never with nails. I think it would also rip through a glove.
But also the cotton ball part is it's like ugly.
That wouldn't work.
It's not hot.
I think it would be much harder to do it too. Also, you have like Edward Scissorhands, like long fingers.
But like a long puffy hand? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All to say.
No, this is a latex glove.
Not rubber. Yeah. Nicole did say rubber gloves, and I was like, for any straight viewers out there, do not use rubber gloves.
Like a Mickey Mouse glove. Like a big white Mickey Mouse glove hand.
Cabaret gloves.
For cotton balls.
I feel like some femmes are like having a crafting night where they're using a chopstick to put the cotton balls in the end of the glove.
It would have to be a chopstick.
And then at the night of, you just have it on your bedside table, and then you just get it on there, and then you have these puffy fingers, and you just go for it.
Sex tips from Nicole Georges.
This show is educational as well as, a kind of commentary on the culture.
I mentioned dental dams because that's another thing that's like lore. Like people are like, yeah, right, who's ever used to that? And it's like 5 people or one person twice in their life.
I know one person who claims.
Went to a women's college. They were on every floor in every bathroom.
They were around.
They're around.
I've never used one, but they are around.
I used it.
I did it. I did it.
Dummy mommy.
If I did it. That's my novel about it.
I have a bunch of questions about it because I was literally just at the endodontist and he put a dental dam on me.
Oh, yeah.
Purely professional reasons.
Sure.
You got damned. You got damned.
I have just a lot of questions about how it's supposed to work in non-professional context because it does not make sense. I know I Nicole.
Well, you wish you could tape it in place, but you can't. You have to hold it in place.
I don't get it.
Many questions.
All right, you guys, we're gonna have to move on here because I have a haircut in a half hour. So.
Okay,
Karen, are you
perfect.
kidding me? We have like 7 hours of TV to talk about.
I'm sorry, but like I thought we'd be able to cover it in 90 minutes.
This is a Joe Rogan episode. This is like a 4-hour long.
Yeah. I also have to go in 15 minutes. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Hair and haircuts. Yeah, exactly. So here we go. We're gonna have to so we've introduced all the couples at this point. We barely talked about any of the actual energy or action. We know about AJ's flirtilla the Hun. Like there's, Mel is also kind of emerging as this flirty figure. We know Megan is the soft Saint Bernard butch. And I feel like we kind of have to get into the how do you call it? Some of the choices that are then made when they have to pick their trial spouses. I think that we should close this episode with a discussion of who people pick as their trial spouses. And Nicole, if you want to tell us who you think our trial spouses
I know.
are.
I was going to say, I would really like Nicole to start by telling us. Yeah.
We went like a solid 10 on dental dams and apocryphal femme fucking lore, but go ahead.
You want to know right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I wanted you guys to choose for me too.
Oh, we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I need the dental dam was for a rim job.
Okay.
And it was not my idea. It was not my idea.
Okay.
Okay,
who picked you for their trial spouse?
Who do I pick for you guys? This was really hard, and I actually tried to get outside character witnesses, and it was still too hard.
Oh, wow. Me. Okay.
Karen threw me for a loop because last year she chose Vanessa, who was the biggest nightmare on the show. And so, but I still, which made me think, I was like, was it Brittany, Dana? But I think Haley. I'm sorry, Karen. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Karen's face.
Brittany is right now, but I wanted Brittany for you, but I didn't choose Brittany for you. I chose
Brittany.
I'm sorry, but I gave Brittany to Poulomi.
Oh.
Thank you. That's actually so kind. I was literally thinking, if I was the person I want to be in the world, I would pick Brittany.
Yeah. Totally.
But I think you were seeing me aspirationally. But we all know that I would have made terrible choices, and I would not have picked lovely, grown-up, beautiful, head on her shoulder.
Sure. Brittany.
I was like, I don't know Poulomi that
I picked Brittany.
Sorry, Karen. I had her down for you as my first choice for you, but then I was like, Karen chose a nightmare last year. I need to find someone who's in between. Yeah. And then Greta.
In between. I want to say Haley's very in between, and I think this stuff definitely not very exciting in my opinion, despite the fact that she gets into some drama.
Well, even though she formulates Cliff Bars for a living,
the food science thing,
you're in. Yeah, you see it. Right, you're like I see it. My own meat thermometer everywhere.
Of course. I would have to deal with it.
Can you imagine what she could bring to your grilling technology? Okay, Greta. Before you started talking about liking the wild one, I chose Pilar for you because she seemed like she
wants Pilar for myself.
I feel like you could turn her out in a way that she needed. And that's why you would choose her. But then you started talking crazy. I thought maybe Dana.
I think
me in my 20s would have chosen Dana, but me now would totally problematically and in good ways choose Pilar. But let me say also that I had gotten, I won't call it a fight, but I got in a heated discussion with my friend and colleague Everin about whether we go on dates with people who've only got been with one person. And at first I was like, in general, my categorical answer is never. But then I was like, but Pilar, she's 10 years in, she's wanting to get railed, she's ready to party. I was like, I would for Pilar. I would give her it wouldn't she doesn't get a lot of chances. I feel one weird kind of hesitant moment. I'm like, ugh, go home. But yeah, Pilar for sure.
Okay, great. I hope everyone enjoys their trial wives.
Oh no, we need one. So let's talk.
Yeah. But we need to give Nicole a trial spouse.
No, that's what we're doing.
So I personally think it depends on whether you want to pretzel someone or you want to be pretzeled. So I think if you want to pretzel someone, it's going to be Kyle. But I would hope for you, AJ.
Oh,
Like,
Oh, that's
I
not
would
where I would have
get
gone.
caught in that little whirlwind for a minute and have a
Mhm.
good time, learn something. Maybe you could start a musical career. I don't know. Like, she's ready to beatbox. I just have a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of
Beatbox.
joy for you with someone like AJ.
thank you so much.
Okay, do you want to go to? Oh, okay, so I went Megan for you. That was kind of my because I was like, I was like Megan clearly likes people that are kind of wilder than them, and I feel like I've known different things about your own dating history, and I was like, I felt like kind of Megan lined up, but then also I feel like Megan would be like into like I don't know like hanging out at home and like watching you draw. Like this was kind of that was in there. And I also feel like Megan, like this was also a wish for you because you're kind of locked in an apartment, like a tiny apartment with them for 3 weeks. And I'm like, Megan doesn't seem like they'd be horrible to hang out with for 3 weeks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no
Karen?
problem.
I was going to pick Megan as well for you. Actually, it was between Megan and AJ for me, and I thought
Wow.
that
Oh, AJ.
the AJ thing for some reason I feel like because AJ is such a relationship chameleon that AJ's curiosity about what you do also. AJ, at some point we realized that AJ not only has a dog but a bunny. And so I think
Oh, a
the
bunny.
proliferate animals, that's a spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen episode 6 or 7 or whatever it is. That like I think that in that kind of animal caretaking vein, you and AJ would get along.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so that's sort of but for some reason, yeah, Megan seemed like the kind of like the sort of doting Taurus would be the appropriate trial spouse for you.
Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate this. When we started watching the show, I thought, now we reveal our trial wives.
Yeah.
When I started watching the show, I thought Megan for sure, But then I was like, realistically, we're having these conversations. She's talking about bodybuilding. I'm like leaving my body, zoning out. I'm enthused that she's Lebanese. I'm excited about it. We're talking about it. I'm like, my family's Syrian. Let's get into it. Let's talk about food. Oh,
I forgot about this.
I'm vegan, so maybe let's talk about some of the traditional foods, but how we veganize them. Here's our conversation line. But then she starts talking about being a personal trainer, and I zone out. She gets a little too basic. And then I was like, unfortunately, so I choose her. But then I was like, would I just end up with Kyle if the blonde hair was negotiable? And I was like, if the blonde hair was negotiable, I just was like, Kyle's like so bland and everyone else is coming on so strong that I was like, how can I just grit and bear it through this next 3 weeks? I don't know. That was my thought, but
like the close your eyes and think of England moment.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what would happen when we got to our trial apartment. AJ, I didn't think because AJ, I could see the feeling inside of me being like, oh, look at all this attention. And then I could see the game immediately because I've been 25 years old. And so I think that the thickness of the game of AJ would repel me then from AJ. And I would be like, or I think that I would give her a hard time and she wouldn't like that. Or maybe she would. But then I would see that that's what she was liking.
The game changers, though, are Duke the dog and the bunny rabbit. And
if that was our conversation line, maybe it's a different story. But then I would be like Marita getting the public clitoridectomy at the choice, where Marita was like so horned up and she was like, I choose AJ. And then AJ was like, sorry, not you. I choose Marie. That would be me at the table.
Yeah. So let's talk. Okay, let's close now.
Who do you choose?
I mean, I would choose Brittany. Okay. I've already said Brittany's hot. Brittany's totally together. Like, obviously, Brittany. I would hope that she would cook oxtails for me.
Yes.
And vice versa. I like that her version of romance, like stepping up to Marita's fantasy for romance, was to like tenderly massage dry rub into chicken wings.
Yeah.
Like, and like kind
that
of
spoke to KT. Yeah, totally.
really spoke to me, and so I think that we probably get on quite well. And there's, I'd be interested in her entrepreneurial ambitions. I'm curious about people and their ambitions, that whole thing. And she's extremely hot. Let's just like say,
yeah, she's extremely hot. She's probably the hottest person on the show. Yeah.
She's the hottest person on the show. So like that, I always like to pick the hottest person.
Poulomi, who would you choose for real?
I wish I could say that I make good decisions. But I want Greta especially to know that I've learned nothing in 20 years.
Yes, that's right.
I would pick Mel.
I know you'd pick Mel. I knew the second I saw her, I was like, that's who Poulomi would hit.
I would know exactly why it was a bad idea. And every
And
time
you walked right on in.
further and further, I'd be like, ooh. I mean, I would buy her some dry shampoo, let's be clear.
Okay, there was a conversation in my viewing party about dry shampoo, and Mel, I just felt like Mel's hair was wet a lot, but was it literally a dry shampoo situation?
It's product that build up plus the grease of constantly touching it.
Right, indeed.
There was a dry shampoo conversation in another thread too. Yeah, but
I could fix her. I could.
Yeah, I'm
do
sure you could. She will definitely, she's fixable, as we all are. Definitely.
I love that the finger mustache does it for you.
Yeah, exactly. Just.
All right, so Greta, you're with Pilar. I chose right for you.
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to think. The other person would be a possibility is Bridget. I'd have to vibe Bridget out a little bit more, though.
Oh yeah,
like, I need to know how saggy Bridget is. I can't totally tell.
I was trying to figure out if Bridget could go with either you or Poulomi, and I was having a hard time getting the puzzle pieces. They almost fit, and I wasn't quite sure.
I do think Bridget is extremely hot, straight up.
Totally adorable. How tall is Bridget?
Like 4 foot.
I think she's short. Yeah, she's 3'7". She's 3'7".
As a short person, I feel like we're at least the same height. We're at least the same height, if not, she's a little taller.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So
how tall are you, KT?
I'm 5'4".
Okay.
But what did I want? Oh, Pilar, you know, I've contemplated Pilar as a sort of rescue mission.
Pilar doesn't need to get rescued. I feel like Pilar is bombing her way out of her relationship.
Yeah, well,
which we've all been there. Yeah.
I think that would have been like, I think that I would have been willing to be taken for Pilar's ride to self-discovery, and you know,
I'd be very happy to be Pilar's ride in a number of different ways. Yeah.
I'm glad you're the one who made that joke.
Well, do we talk about any more episodes with our time, or what do we do?
I think, you know, let's just reveal who the trial spouse picks are.
Oh yeah.
And then we may have to just do, Nicole, you and I may just have to do like some bonus episode discussion.
Okay.
As an addendum to this really wonderful, wide-ranging discussion we've had with our special guests here.
I would really miss our special guests. I just have to say, I want you guys to suffer with us.
Well, I mean this makes it so much better.
When we record next week, you know, for the second episode drop, episode 7 through 10, we can then get into the nitty-gritty. It always happens when we introduce a show and we talk about the cast that we kind of get lost in those details. That's kind of how TGR goes anyway. So we could have predicted this would happen with our discussion of the ultimatum today. But let's reveal who the actual trial spouses were on the show. Let's start with the first choice. We were talking about AJ. We talked about the rejection of Marita, but who did AJ pick?
Marie.
The crazy thing about this is the build up as like the, you know, calling AJ out for being a player and for performing intimacy. And then let's pick the person that she seems most kind of genuine and calm around, which is Marie. Mm-hmm. You know, for all of the like horn dogging with Marita, she goes with Marie, who's
and Bridget.
And Bridget, who was like, I don't want anything to do with this, but also do pick me just left unpicked. But then Marie, who's this kind of like lovely, quiet, we don't see a ton of FaceTime between them. Mm-hmm. But AJ does seem the least chameleon with Marie, for sure.
Yeah. And we'll learn more about how that goes in subsequent episodes. Okay. We get the other couple, Haley and Pilar. What happens in that scenario?
Pilar chooses Kyle. Pilar, who has been in a Kyle Bridget sandwich.
I forgot about this.
I thought that they were going to form a trio, and I was ready for that.
Yeah, same. I was like the first throuple on Queer Ultimatum.
Pilar's like, can you guys Devil's Triangle me or London Bridge or whatever? And then she ends up choosing Kyle, who actually ends up being more of a wet blanket than she bargained for.
Yeah. Bridget would have been a much more fun combo for Pilar, straight up.
Bridget would have given Pilar what she was looking for.
I think
Exactly,
so.
exactly. Yeah.
At least a good snog, you know what I mean? Like, I think
Oh
Pilar
God,
needed a good
exactly.
snog, like,
I
without all the
don't
angst
understand
and
why they
drama.
think that they're not going to have sex in 3 weeks. Like, you're shoved into a house doing a trial marriage. Like, isn't sex part of a marriage? Like I'd be like, this is why I would choose Pilar. Is just that, like, I'd be like, look, we're down to clown. We're locked into this apartment. What are we gonna do? We're gonna fuck.
Yes.
We're gonna get there. Yeah,
We're gonna get there.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
so
exactly.
funny.
We're gonna get there.
This
We're
is
gonna
your
get there.
speech at the round table.
Yeah,
Um,
Pilar,
yeah.
thank you.
Well, so the other big player, of course, was Mel, and Mel, who was talking to multiple people.
Chooses Poulomi.
Mel didn't Poulomi. Mel was all over Brittany and all over Dana, and there was rivalry between Dana and Brittany. And was there another person who Mel was talking
No,
to?
Mel wasn't Mel Dana's partner. No. Who was?
Mel?
No. Oh, you're right. It was Dana. Yeah.
Yeah. So Dana at some point confronts Mel and says, "Hey, like, what's up? I want you to, like, basically kind of dummy mommy's Mel
Yeah,
into."
totally. She dummy mommy Mel, and Mel's clearly a butch bottom. Like, that's like there's been so many moments where, like, remember the moment where Brittany is like, I want a twerking contest at Carnival, and Mel's like, I would like to see that, and then Brittany goes on Mel, and Mel was like, I don't think I would have won, and I'm like, oh, you're imagining yourself not as the person watching, but as the person doing it.
That was
great, which is wonderful, but like,
queer.
It's a very visible moment. It's a visible moment.
I like that in Greta's cosmology, like, the desire to twerk equals bottom.
I just feel like I'm not, but no, it's not, that's not generally true. But the particular way that Mel says it is that she wants to be admired for twerking. It's about the visual. Yeah.
The kind of the where spectatorship and action.
Exactly. Yeah. She wants to be the object of the attention, which is totally great. Like, no shade whatsoever. But that's why she and Dana are like, I was like, I know Mel's going to pick Dana.
And unsurprisingly, Mel does pick Dana and the dummy mommy, like, because she's dummy mommied. And that was like Brittany hung out to dry.
Wait, also
that was so sad.
Bridget too was hung out to dry.
Well, Bridget saved herself. Bridget was like, life vest, life raft,
and chose Ashley, the person with no personality.
Yeah, the minute that it was clear AJ was, finagling and talking to very many people in these intimate ways, Bridget was like, the survival skills are right there on the surface.
Oh yeah.
Super apparent, made the hard pivot, chose Ashley, who hadn't spoken to would spoken 3 words the entire week or so that everybody was dating. And so Bridget got like the safety pick in Ashley, while Brittany, bereft of any, let's get to actually Megan. What's the choice between Megan that Megan makes at this point, right? Because Megan's already anxious. Megan's scared. Dana's obviously hot to trot for Mel.
Yeah, there's fireworks. Megan's panting. Yeah.
I feel like the producers forced Megan into a date with Haley. They were like, come on, you just got to try. You got to try. And then Haley's like, you're a personal trainer. I formulate Cliff Bars. And then Megan's like, okay, this could work. So Megan chooses Haley.
It was the most like Taurus love. It was like, you're a Taurus. I'm a Taurus. Let's do this. Like, we're the same. And indeed, their whole conversations are constantly, we are the same.
Yeah.
True. Like that Matthew Sweet song, we're the same. Poulomi, do you have any thoughts on Megan and Haley?
But they're sort of in it to win it. It's just so quiet and indoors. And
they're very indoorsy.
They actually feel like humans and not characters, which I know makes for like not great TV. But I do also think that, like, a dog wearing a Thunder shirt, Megan was like approaching, it's like the vests that say, don't pet me, I'm nervous. And now, the best is for everybody else, but Haley is allowed to pet,
Yeah.
Yeah. What's apparent is that I'm outnumbered by dog lesbians in this podcast right now.
Woof,
Okay.
woof,
So
woof.
then, and then, does that cover? Does that cover
The femmes left standing.
the femmes left standing? So that covers everyone except for Brittany and Marita, who
The
are
lovers of
femmes left
AJ.
standing. Oh, yeah, lovers of AJ, all the kind of Joker
Marita
lovers of
really
AJ.
wanted AJ, and Brittany was AJ's partner, and yeah, then they ended up together. But that actually seems like it's turning into like a very sweet like gal pal situation.
Well, Brittany said, "I'm gonna be her daddy." Which,
She did say that.
when she was wearing a full bead of makeup to bed, I was like, I don't know, Dad. But she has been very romantic towards Marita, which was
Dad,
nice.
is that you?
I'm gonna bust out that daddy energy. Which,
I do believe she said zaddy. I think she did say zaddy, just to make it like to slightly soften it. Yeah.
Daddy energy? Oh, I didn't.
I don't think she has daddy energy. I mean, Dana has like fucking daddy energy, but like I feel like I said with deep respect for beautiful, mature, organized, wise Ashley Brittany. I don't think Brittany has daddy energy.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think so either. But anyway, that would be my trial spouse. So
That's your
again,
spouse. You're
massaging chicken wings, having oxtail.
changing the
Anyway.
pillowcase every morning.
Oh yeah.
There's just a full face.
She was crying on the couch. I was just like, I just remember how she needed to go. She wanted to talk to AJ. Like, yeah, I want everything for Brittany.
And Marita gave her a little hug on the couch. Poulomi.
She did.
It is really showing up for Brittany in ways that I want to honor, especially because she was my first walking red flag. And I was like, yeah. So I want to take it back and say that Marita is green flagging being not a romantic spouse, but being a really supportive, emotionally present spouse to
Wait, can we talk about who's I don't know how you're doing for time, KT, but my thing just got canceled, so now I'm fine. But
I
can we talk
have
about
to
who's
go.
most toxic? Oh, you have to go. Okay.
I will have to go.
Can we talk about who's toxic behind your back?
Let's do a quick round of who's toxic.
Okay. Greta.
I'm gonna go with Mel, most toxic.
What are your reasons?
Like I think the toxic masculinity is on there. Like you really see it when Mel sort of like goes at Megan and AJ is like, what? It was really interesting to see AJ not get involved in that. And I was like, oh, you actually do not have toxic masculinity, at least as far as we can tell. But like, or not at least to the same degree. But the whole like, I'm gonna take you aside, sir. I was like, oh God, like so tiresome. Even Megan was like, what? I mean, Megan was also like, where's my thunder shirt? So Mel is, and I just think and then like pressuring Dana to like make a decision like while they're still together after being the person who like wouldn't like who's the ultimatum receiver. Anyway, Mel's dead to me, as we've discussed.
I agree that Mel is extremely toxic. I think amongst the masks, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Mel is the most toxic. I think that actually Marie, Mel and Marie as a couple, I think that, you know, in my opinion is that should be over. Like after this experiment, that relationship, despite the food truck, which trust me, I love and care for food trucks almost as much as I love cats. But I think that like they'll just have to part ways, you know, after the situation. Marie's toxicity to me manifests in her you know, capacity for denial. To me, that is the most toxic trait, is to, you know, to live in a kind of delulu of denial in ways that reinforce terrible things happening to you and happening around you. And so that's sort of my sense of Marie and her enabling of Mel's like dastardly behavior.
She's also passive aggressive as fuck.
Yeah. Passive aggression is also massive red flag to me. Yeah.
You guys aren't going to like this, and this is a spoiler for a future episode, but Pilar, the way that Pilar responded when having gone across a boundary, I found very, very frat boy, like, well, you were leading me on. Like, I voted Pilar off the island at that point, and I wanted to go in and do an intervention, a CPS intervention on Kyle, because I was like, Pilar's like, you were cuddling me. So of course I had to stick my tongue in your mouth. And I was like, I didn't like how she was like, it takes two to tango when Kyle said you crossed my boundary. And I didn't like that style of processing.
I'm like so ready to defend her. I was like, was like, what? There's two people. I was like, it takes two to tango, Nicole.
I feel like I'm going to out myself as being toxic because my split was actually that Kyle was toxic in that moment, and I was going to say that
I kind of
Mel
felt a
and
little bit
Kyle,
like they were. Yeah.
Mel, obviously, and I think here also like using masculinity as a alibi to not be able to talk about your feelings is it's not even interesting anymore. It's like not worth talking about. Like, fine. But I actually found Kyle's take on the conversation with Pilar also kind of toxic because I don't think that she said anything to Pilar then. She was like, I wasn't really
Yes.
saying it, and I don't understand.
Yes.
And there was this kind of like sense of like, you made me uncomfortable. I didn't say anything because I didn't feel like I could. And there was something again about the extraordinary aggressivity of it.
Weaponized passivity. Yeah.
I actually went from in general, I don't love Pilar as much as everybody else does, but like I was like, I'm on your side, sister. You maybe got a little frisky. Sorry, this is maybe also having like bad sexual
Poulomi's a sexual expert.
I don't know how to introduce you guys. Karen, you introduced them. I don't know.
No. I mean, look, this is our time to bid farewell.
All right.
For
sexual experts.
For sexual experts. And we'll be back with more Ultimatum bonus episodes. We were planning on 3, but who knows? There might be more.
14-part series.
On our time and capacity. But I want to thank our guests, Poulomi Saha, Greta Fleur. You've been listening to The Gay-Mazing Race, talking about the Ultimatum. We hope you enjoy this little like summer treat for you. And we'll be back with more toxic masks and dommy mommies soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you,
Bye.
guys.